Hello, everybody. Oh my goodness, it has been way too long since I last recorded a solo episode. 2 months to be exact. I believe ever since I launched the podcast with my story, there was 2 episodes there. I just haven't sat back down and done a bit of a yap by myself. So here we are, 19th of January, the day I'm recording this. Hello, where is January going? I just can't believe the speed at which time is going by. Like, is anyone else having the same feeling? I feel like you blink and 2 months have gone by. Blink again, we're 6 months later, and it's just flying by. So I thought, what better way to kick off this solo episode than with a bit of an update as to what life has looked like since I released my solo episode with my story. So I'll give it a bit of context for anyone who hasn't listened to that. Basically, halfway through 2025, I suddenly started feeling like the relationship I was in wasn't what I needed, and the hardest decision I would say was just realizing that despite having a beautiful, loving relationship and being alongside an incredible human being. So that happened, and shortly after I kind of got laid off work. Anyway, my whole world kind of crumbled real quick, and I made the call to put all my belongings in storage in Perth, Western Australia. So I've been based in Margaret River in the southwest for 6 years and had an incredible community, but it just didn't feel right to stay there anymore. So in a whim, I just put all my belongings into storage, left my house that I was sharing with my partner, had incredible support from friends and family, and decided to just buy a one-way ticket to Spain, which is where I'm from. That's a very quick, short story as to how and why the podcast started, because obviously I was seeing myself in the midst of the dirty 30, figuring out what life was going to look like from there on, and still figuring it out. Here we are. It hasn't been that long. So the backtrack of this story, that was July 2025 when shit started going downhill, and we are now in January 2026. So hello, six month mark since life just took a 360, 420, I don't even know, turn. And here we are. So the purpose of me going to Spain, number one, was to just find a bit of healing and a slower pace with family and my close friends from my hometown. And number two, also frees my spending from day-to-day activities and expenses like rent and, fuel and whatnot. Reinforcing that I do have a very supportive family, so that was very accessible for me. And the 3 months just flew by. Like, I can't even describe it. I feel like for those 2 months whilst I was still in Australia, eventually realizing, yes, I am going to go to Spain, and wording these plans to people, and suddenly I was just packing again and leaving Spain after 3 months. Like, it just went by so quick. And the trip definitely served its purpose. It was healing in so many more ways. Like, I just didn't realize a few things that were kind of lingering that just felt very, warm and almost like a closing feeling. So that was amazing, and I'll go into a bit of detail into that soon. And so I thought, okay, 3 months are going to go by, and I feel like before I make the move to the east coast of Australia, so the plan all along was, let's regroup, reground in Spain, and then tackle a big change like relocating from Western Australia to New South Wales, which is on the east coast for anyone who doesn't live in Australia. I've always loved that coast. I've always felt very drawn to experiencing it a bit more. I only really traveled 2 times in the past 2 years, short trips, but also in my first year of living in Australia when I was still a backpacker and a traveller, and got to explore a bit of that. And in the 2 recent trips, one of them being April 2025, I felt so expanded. Like, there was this energy and opportunities that I could see, and almost like a replica of the lifestyle that I was living in Western Australia in this cute little town called Margaret River, but with more opportunities, so more expansive in that way. And yeah, so the moment shit went downhill, I knew that that was where I wanted to relocate, and I just knew I needed a bit of time before I could feel 100% myself. And you still need to meet new people and find your groove, and it's a big change. So yeah, going to Spain was the best decision for that. Now, the first month in Spain, I almost didn't see anyone. I was in a bit of a cocoon. And yeah, grieving a lot. Still am, 6 months in, still am, even though I was the one that called out the relationship and decided to, end it. And then it just happened that it was mutual. That doesn't mean it's any easier, but I guess we both just really respected where the other one stood and made this decision out of love. So whilst in Spain, month number 1, quiet, introversion. The weather was amazing, focus on working on the podcast. And then I started getting a bit itchy to move. And so I was like, all right, I feel like I want to travel. And, this whole little sabbatical in Spain was so unplanned. Like, if it wasn't because I lost my job in a way right after the breakup, I would have probably just kept my life and everything as it was in Margaret River. So I guess that was the last thread that kind of exploded, that made me just want to retrieve and find a new life. It might sound, when I say that, some people are like, oh, but were you running away? And I'm like, I don't think I was. I think I am someone that has changed a lot in her life. Like, I actually love the feeling of change, and as much as I was really settled in my life there, I suddenly felt this opportunity to expand and explore, and finding myself at 33 without any attachments of sorts felt really freeing. So yeah, I just followed that lead. And also, dating in a small town when you've been there for 6 years, like, not very appealing. Like, am I going to see my ex going on dates? Like, is he going to see me? Like, it's just not really what I felt like I wanted to do. Plus, work opportunities are very limited. So considering I was unemployed and single, I just felt, let's find a bit more expansion. Anyway, I tend to go on such big rants and tangents, so I'm sorry about that. Hope it's all making sense. And so basically I started traveling. So I went to Rome for a weekend, I went to Paris for a weekend, I went to Morocco for a week, I went to the snow with my family for a weekend, and also I went to Madrid, capital city of Spain. So I had a lot of time with different friends, with my family, and it was so nice to have that quality time with everyone. Like, after 7 years of living overseas, I missed that so much, and everyone did. It's a very mutual feeling. So it just felt like such a gift to have that time to spend not feeling rushed, and just, quality time and such fond memories, like none of these people have kids yet. Like, we're kind of like in that verge of, who knows, next time I see you, you might be pregnant, you might already have a baby, like, who knows. So anyway, that was really, really good. But obviously when I travel, it's almost like every single time I need a holiday from the holiday. I move around a lot, and it's a blessing in disguise. So anyway, I feel like after all those trips, by the time Christmas came and there was obviously all the hangouts with family and stuff, I felt like, I've been moving a lot. But I still had one more trip, which was to Sri Lanka for 2 weeks with other girlfriends. Now, come the 5th of January, my time in Spain comes to an end. And that week, I guess like that month leading to it, right after the trip to Morocco, which was the first week of December, I started getting really anxious again. So I am someone who has developed anxiety later in life. It hasn't really been a Like, I guess I have had nervous tendencies, say like with exams and stuff like that, but I never really felt anxiety as such until easily from 29 years of age onwards. Anxiety really became a thing for me. Now I've been diagnosed with ADHD. I've been on antidepressants for a couple of years now, which have really helped me find my groove again and just feel like a normal human being in terms of my moods and not having a trillion swings and just feeling so out of body in so many ways. And so where was I going with that? Okay, yes, December, I started feeling a bit anxious, and that usually happens at the end of these trips in Spain where I know the goodbye is going to be really hard. I feel really guilty because I break people's hearts. Like, I just leave everyone so sad, and I am sad too, but in a way I'm excited for my new beginnings. But I feel like, yeah, there's this detachment that happens that's a bit cruel in a way, and I carry that guilt with me. And so I think that combined with, oh shit, like I'm about to embark on this very big adventure again. How is this going to go? Finances, running a bit low. Have I stretched my travels a bit too much? And then I guess hearing about my ex moving on was a bit of a hard pill to swallow. Not necessarily like with a new partner, but just dating in general. So anyway, there was a bit of all of that combined, which was definitely making me feel quite unsettled. During the month of December, for anyone who's listened to one of my early episodes, one of my solo ones around manifestation, you've probably heard me talk about To Be Magnetic, which is a manifesting app that I've used and which has been so helpful in my life. Holy shit. And so I was doing their inner child challenge. So they do seasonal challenges and they focus on different themes and topics, and this one was really about unblocking those inner child belief systems and limiting beliefs, conditions that we have dragged out into our adult years. And so I guess all in all, what it's trying to do is just unblock that subconscious to really believe in opportunity, believe in things happening for you, believe in goodness coming your way, rather than staying in, I don't deserve this, how am I ever going to have this, look at these people having everything they want and I don't. There's these kind of belief systems that we kind of hold on to for whatever reason from whatever our journey has been. And so therefore this was all about unblocking, and it was actually really good. I loved it. I must say, I must be transparent, I never got to finish it because my membership actually finished right as I was leaving Spain, and I took it as a sign to just take a break and let everything sink in. So this is all to say that there had been a bit of unblocking during the month of December. That mixed with a bit of those anxious thoughts, there was definitely a lot of overthinking and journaling and all of that, a lot of introspection. So the week leading to my departure from Spain, I chipped a front tooth that already had a previous filling, and somehow suddenly I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh my gosh, where did part of my teeth go? Like, I'd never really felt it. And my mood was really low. There was a lot of tears because there was a lot of goodbyes. I was flying out on a Tuesday, so that week was just, on the weekend, just a lot of goodbyes. For anyone who's an expat just knows that feeling. It is so fucking hard. Anyway, so I felt like I wasn't really starting this trip off the best way. Like, I still had 2 weeks with people, with friends in Sri Lanka that I had to enjoy, make the most of, and then, dive into this new adventure. And so I guess I felt a bit blocked in a way, like my energy felt a bit blocked, and just didn't feel like I was leaving in my best. And like, I had so many things to pack. This was just a nightmare. Like, I came with oversized luggage to Spain and I was leaving with like even more oversized luggage. Like, don't ask me how. I had to leave these beautiful Moroccan rugs that I bought in Morocco. I'm lugging like all these crazy items and belongings that I packed in a whim back in September because I had to leave a house, still have things with me for the month I was going to be in Australia, pack for 3 months in Spain, which is winter, and then thought I was going to have to wait a bit like further into 2026 to receive all my belongings that are in storage in WA and ship it to New South Wales. Anyway, so there was a lot of stuff. So this is a very long story that was never going to be short, so apologies if you thought that was going to be the case. Anyway, we get to the day I leave, say goodbye to my parents. Really, really sad. Leave my hometown, get a train to Madrid, where then I get a taxi to the airport and get to the airport. And all along, I knew I was going to be oversized like a bit in my luggage, but didn't think it was going to be that much. Like Dad and I were pretty convinced my big suitcase was going to be like 22 kilos and my limit was 23. Now I get to the counter and the lady kindly asks me to weigh my carry-on. My carry-on is just a compact wheelie carry-on, but the limit of that was 7 kilos, and that was double the weight. But on top of that, I was also carrying a shoulder bag, very large bag, that could have easily been another 12, 15 kilos, like literally breaking my shoulder. But playing it cool, you know, like, oh, this is such a breeze, it's so light, but it was very bulky. So when I weigh my carry-on, the wheelie one, the lady's like, oh, you are double the limit for this bag. Let's check the big one. And then I started getting cold sweats. I was like, oh shit. Like the big one is going to be a big one. And as we weigh it all up, those two bags are 15 kilos over my limit. Just for context, I'm carrying like 2 microphones for podcasting. I'm carrying ankle weights. Why did I pack my ankle weights? Who the heck knows? I could have just bought cheap ones when I get there. I packed random shit. And here I am, 15 kilos over, thinking, I'm in Madrid. I can't pass any of my belongings to anyone because none of my family lives there. I'm leaving. Like, what the heck am I supposed to do? And the thing is, when I flew to Spain, I, like I said, had oversized luggage at the time, but I knew this was the case. Like I actually wanted to check in an extra bag, so I was willing to pay. And so I knew that Qatar Airways charges 60 USD per kilo. Per kilo, 60 USD. I can't remember what the change is to Australian dollars, but it's a lot of money. So when she said 15 kilos oversized, just do the math. Do the math. I'm thinking thousands of dollars by this point. And this is just part one of the trip because this is taking me to Sri Lanka where I'm spending 2 weeks. And then I am catching a separate flight to Melbourne, which was cheaper than flying to the Gold Coast, which is where I'm relocating to. So I fly to Melbourne. That's another part 2 of the trip. I actually exit the airport to go see my cousin and auntie and uncle who are going to be visiting, which is super exciting. Just have a brekkie with them in Melbourne. And then booked my flight separately, so part 3 of the trip, at 1 p.m. that day to the Gold Coast. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm 15 kilos extra now, but I'm going to be 15 kilos extra for part 2 and 3. Hello. So I start getting, not cold sweats, like I feel like I'm going to faint. I'm crying again at the counter. The lady's like, excuse me, sorry, can you wait on the side? Because basically what happened was I booked my flight with Iberia, which is a Spanish airline, and it was operated with Qatar Airways all along. So the check-in was still with Qatar Airways, but I guess the cost and the oversized luggage was paid to Iberia. Thank fucking goodness, and excuse my language. Oh my gosh. So at this point, I'm waiting inside and I'm like, what is my luck? I've jinxed this. Like I was coming with such bad juju to this, and I'd been feeling so good before, like a month earlier, and then, just feeling like, oh my fucking God. So eventually the lady calls me back to the counter. Here I come with my trillion bags, making my way through people. And she's like, I'm so sorry for the wait. It's going to be 140 euros, please. I almost kissed her forehead. I was like, what? And this was all because I had booked with Iberia and not Qatar Airways. What are the chances? Oh my gosh, 140 euros. I was like, take it. Here you go, take it. So off my suitcases go, and here I am with this very heavy shoulder bag. And I am like, at this point, I was like, all my basic needs that I was so thirsty, I needed to wee, everything had just gone, and I just could feel like my blood was flowing again. Like, oh, it was so stressful. And then, I was like, look, you've been lucky. just trust that you'll be this lucky for the next trips. You know, they're all operated with different airlines. Who the heck knows? We're in now. Don't even think about it. So off I go, get my boarding passes, board the first flight, and the flight is chockers. Like, it's absolutely full, packed to the rim. And, you know, I'm like, suddenly I sit in my aisle seat. I always pick an aisle seat. And there's a lady on the window seat. So there's a gap between us. It's a 3-seater row. And as we take off, she taps my shoulder once the plane is like stable, taps my shoulder, and she's like, hey, sorry, I'm actually air staff, like an air hostess, so I won't be needing my seat until landing, so you feel free to use my, like, the whole row. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? Of course I will make use of the whole row. Holy shit. And somehow this is something that happens to me recurringly. Like, I fly to Europe and overseas frequently, and I somehow tend to end on a 3-seater row or a 4-seater row by myself. So there I go, horizontal, the 6.5-hour flight, and anyone who was passing the aisle to go to the bathroom or whatever would look, being like, fucking bitch. And I was like, I know, I'm sorry, I wish everyone could have this, but I just need to milk this. It was so good. I didn't get a wink of sleep, but it was just way more comfortable, if you know what I mean. If you fly overseas, you know what I mean. It's pretty painful when you're just stuck there in your tiny little seat. Now, what happens next, like, these 24 hours traveling to Sri Lanka felt like I was in a movie. I didn't know if I was tripping. I didn't know if this was real. I didn't know if I was living someone else's life. Like, I did not understand what the heck was going on. So, if you think I've been lucky until this point, I've so far managed to get 15 kilos extra for just 140 euros checked in, done. I am in a plane full of people and somehow land a full row to myself. Right. I get off my first flight. So we are now in Doha, Qatar. Beautiful airport, late at night. And I had a very quick layover, went to the bathroom, got myself kind of refreshed, and went to board. And as I'm ready to board, I hand over my boarding pass to the lady at the counter, and she swipes it and goes, oh, sorry, ma'am, there's an error, scans it again, and says, oh, sorry, ma'am, you've been upgraded to business class. Huh? Say what? What do you mean I have been upgraded to business class? Now, I follow a lot of, like, financial accounts, like people that are just really savvy with finance and tech, and, you know, they've got all these systems in place and they've got points and they just travel and make use of that. And I've always loved that. And I have my credit card, I try to gain points, but in a very mild, peasant-like way within, my privilege. And so when she says those words, I thought I misunderstood her at first, and then hands me my new boarding pass, and it's got this silver lining at the top, which clearly says business pass or business class, whatever. And so at this point, I'm like, holy shit. The funniest thing is that 2 nights before I left Spain, I had a dinner with my girlfriends from my hometown, and we took a last picture together. It was nighttime, we just had dinner, and as we stood up, like, for the picture, there was a street light behind me, so that it seems like I have like a halo around my head. And so we were joking, like, oh my gosh, you've just been blessed. And funnily enough, as we then were like, all right, let's take a serious picture now, we turned around, and on the wall there's this sign that says blessed, and we all took a picture with it, and we just, like, laughed so hard. So at this point, I'm thinking of my girlfriends being like, I have been blessed. I have been blessed. And as I walk into the plane, none of that, walk till the end of the aisle to find your seat, 52J, whatever it is. No, 10J. Walk in, my seat is right there. And I can sit comfortably and make eye contact with every single person walking into this flight, being like, yes, I know. Yes, I know. I am sitting in a business class seat, like fully reclinable. There's a 3-course set menu. There's champers when you sit down, like a glass of champagne. And I'm like, what? How? Tell me how. This is, until this point, probably the most abundant 24 hours I've ever had. So again, if anyone's listened to my podcast on To Be Magnetic, there's a concept called expanders. People that live a life or that, tend to have an energy around them that feels magnetic and you're really attracted to. And I felt like I was just living the life of an expander, someone who suddenly has somehow landed all these perks whilst traveling and feeling so expanded myself, being like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to tell my friends about this. Like, how on earth? Anyway, so that's that. That is my 24 hours of absolute luck. And then I land in Sri Lanka and I've got a couple days until the girls come. So the day the girls come, I'm telling them the story being like, how on earth did this happen? And I've got a theory, which I'm going to explain after the story. So as I'm telling the girls the story, I kept saying, all along, I feel like something bad is going to happen because this was too good to be true. The feeling like it's too good to be true. Like, how is this happening? And so that feeling was there for a reason. That night, us three girls went out, got a bit silly, got a bit tipsy, went out and had a bit of a boogie, and then went to get some food and walked back to our accommodation. And if you know me, I love animals so much. And there was just 3 puppies walking alongside us, not puppies, 3 dogs. Yes, street dogs in Sri Lanka. I know, call me dumb. You can guess what happened. Basically, I was walking with the dogs. We walked to our accommodation. One of the dogs was actually from the hotel, like had a collar. And as the girls walk upstairs, there's like a little staircase up to the first floor where our room is. I stay behind saying, you guys, stop arguing, because they were having a bit of a rough kind of, and I'm a dog owner, so it felt very, innocent. And suddenly, within a glimpse, I blinked and suddenly my leg is bleeding. It was a very superficial bite. The dog I was standing up at this point. The dog must have gone for the other one and just bit my leg. I didn't even feel the bite. It was so bizarre. And there's 2 little fangs and blood coming out of my leg. So the rest of the story goes on pretty wild. Basically, there was a security guard at our accommodation. I called the girls, washed the wound. I'm kind of like crying, laughing, being like, what is my life? Like, this continues to be out of a movie. The fact that I've been 3 days in Sri Lanka, drunk and being dumb, patting street dogs, which, yes, I know you shouldn't do, and then found myself in the middle of a very quick fight. Like, honestly, it took a second. They just had a bit of a go, and the go just happened to be my leg. And off the dogs went. And suddenly I am with the hotel manager, which we had to wake up because it was early in the morning, late at night, and he's driving me to the nearest hospital. Turns out they don't have a rabies vaccine. So then we have to go 20 minutes far away to another hospital to get a rabies vaccine. So I end up getting 3 shots, 2 rabies, 1 tetanus, have very sore arms. I feel disgusting the next morning. My belly is in a bad state. So my start to the journey in Sri Lanka was definitely not as good as I thought. Now, that's the story of my, start to the Sri Lanka trip. And the reason why I'm telling this is because I think it was a continuation of the unblocking and the journey I was doing with manifesting. So hear me out. Basically, I felt like when I was embarking on this trip, I could happily, I felt like I was at such a point of surrender, being like, okay, this is my mood. This is all the shit that's gone down this previous year. I'm very open to what happens next. I don't have a set expectation on anything. I just hope things go well. End of story. So I think I was in such a whatever mindset that good and bad could happen, and have a very clear awareness around these things. So what I mean by this is that I felt like I'd done a lot of unblocking, and I was very, open internally to outcomes, not expecting anything from anything that I was about to do. But then when I had this glimpse of 24 hours of absolute luck, I really felt like this was such a reminder for me to trust in the process more, because all along that month, that funny month leading up to this, where I'd just been feeling not myself and just, very low in mood and just a bit anxious, I really had let go of my trust muscle with the potential of things, with the opportunities to come, with the goodness to come, and the journey that was about to unfold. And so I suddenly had this massive expansion right before the 11th of January, an incredible manifesting and energetic portal. So this was happening on the 6th of January leading up to this. Now, angel numbers, I had been seeing them everywhere these 3 months leading up to this trip. 111, 1111, like these numbers were following me everywhere. So I guess that was also a sign for me to just be open to things, however they came, and not feel attached to, outcomes, or feeling like I was holding back from doing things. So I was pretty much doing whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and trusting in the outcomes, whatever they looked like. And so I think I was in that expanded mindset, despite being in a bit of a low mood, a low frequency. But these 24 hours were really up leveling my frequency to be like, let's go. If this is how my 2026 is starting, I am ready. Like 2025 was a shit show. I'm feeling like there is so much goodness coming my way. But of course, that was brought down very quickly the moment I get bitten by a dog and they tell me I need to do a 5-course of injections over the next month and have antibiotics. Like, this is the start of my trip with girlfriends. Like, what the heck? Not cool, dog, not cool. It's actually funny just reflecting on it, because there's actually photos and videos of me patting the dogs and saying to the girls, we should all bring one to bed, and I just miss my dog so much. Like, I just need to say it. The problem here is that I miss my dog, which I had to leave behind the moment I split up from my partner and decided to leave Margaret River. I miss her so much, and I can't even count the amount of nights I go to bed crying thinking of her. She was my baby. So that's the problem. I miss my baby, and therefore other puppies had to replace her temporarily, and that was just not cool, not smart from my end. So then I think this experience was almost like believe in what you can achieve, but also, come back to self, come back to practice, come back to mindfulness, come back to presence, and a bit of security in my movements, because I tend to be so naive when I move through the world, and I tend to just be like la-di-da. And I guess there was a big lesson there. Obviously, don't pat Sri Lankan dogs. It's you just don't want to be in that situation. And it does happen. And luckily, I can get a vaccine. So grateful that I could receive medical support, and I continue to have that when I come to Australia. But I felt like there was a glimpse of, okay, 2026 could be really expansive, but if you're not genuinely paying attention to signs and grounding and feeling, secure in your moves, bad shit can still happen. I mean, bad shit can happen anytime. But that was, I guess, how I was perceiving this, being like, there was a bit of an awakening to happen, but also a reminder, things can go downhill pretty quick, so don't get too ahead of yourself. So the timing of this was also pretty funny, because obviously I'm embarking on this uncertain trip, 2 weeks in Sri Lanka, and then going to the east coast of Australia and starting fresh without much of a plan. But I had come across this when I did a post on how at the start of this year, 2026, I was letting go of vision boards and big goals list, and was just anchoring onto a Japanese practice, an ancient practice called kakizomi, which is just you anchor onto one word, and that's kind of going to be your reminder for the year. That's kind of the anchor and the meaning that you hold for the rest of the year, something to come back to. And so my word there was connection. And when I posted this, there was a few people that, whether they were posting on their channels or reached out, let me know that in the traditional Chinese calendar, technically, we're still, as Westerners, a bit far in time to when the year really begins, the new energy of the year really begins. So if you've heard about the year of the snake being 2025, there's the year of the fire horse for 2026. So at first I was like, oh my gosh, did all of this happen because there was this fire burning for expansion, but then it was all too quick. And then I realized that the year of the fire horse doesn't really start until end of February, which means I am still, and we are still, in the year of the snake, the shedding year. So when I came to this realization, I was like, I do still feel like I'm shedding. This low frequency that I was vibrating in, there was so much grief coming up for me in this last month, the 5th month since I split up from my partner, and still carrying it with me. It still feels like until I don't get to Australia and fully land, I have a sense I'm not fully gonna blossom and expand. There's still that bit of grieving to do. And it's funny too that, this marks my 6th month now at the end of January since the breakup. I somehow held onto that number being like, after 6 months, you're going to feel so much better with yourself. But I felt like February, my birthday, I'll be more settled in the East Coast, hopefully have a car and all these things that have kind of been trickling in the back of my head and just feel a bit more grounded. My word, that Kakizomi word I was mentioning for 2026 was connection. So I felt like the moment I start landing, I can really ground in that word and connect to people, connect to place, connect to myself by having a bit of a routine, which I've been so out of routine for months. And it just came as that clear reminder of, hold your horses, hold your reins. There's still a bit of work here that's coming up and I'm in for it. I'm in for it. If anyone else has ever gone through rock bottom, the last thing you're meant to do is fight it. And I was like, okay, this is me. Life continues to be a whirlwind. Often I look at other people's lives, more stable in their job, in their relationship, in their life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, will I ever get there? Is that even me? Because I don't think it is. This is like the story of my life. I tend to go through phases of a lot of stability and really anchoring onto that, but then I'm such a Fruit Loop and so many things happen to me that I could honestly sometimes feel like I could write a book. This is just one of many. And so I guess there was this clear reminder and this really deep feeling suddenly when I was in Sri Lanka now to connect. I felt like it was time for me to wrap up this sabbatical and set roots. So the day I'm recording this, the 19th of January, is the last day I'm in Sri Lanka. I really wanted to honor my time here by recording in this land before completely changing to Australia. And it feels quite cathartic talking about it now because I am so excited for the new beginnings. I do have a deep sense of trust and I'm just curious. Like, I love, the dopamine hits of not knowing what's coming and then seeing how things evolve and unfold and then reflecting on them. So trust me, you will be receiving all the updates firsthand, and I will be talking about the messy and the beauty in all of it because that is part of the Dirty 30 chats. So I guess as a bit of a preface to what's coming, my life will continue to be very unexpected and uncertain for months to come. So next month, 12th of February, I will be turning 34. Did I ever think I would be here at 34 living this lifestyle, which I'm about to explain? Hell no. Hell no. But here we are. And here I am making this sound okay because honestly, it feels okay. It feels crazy to think that this feels okay. So what's happening is I'm flying into the Gold Coast and I am going to be house sitting, which I explained a bit of this in my full story in episode number 1, where due to mold in my previous rental when I was still with my partner back in 2024, I got sick from mold, so I moved out and I did a bit of house sitting and I genuinely loved it. This was also the start of my manifesting journey. Every single house I stayed in was an upgrade of what the life I was living, and it ticked every single box of how I wanted to live, meaning a clean house, big open spaces, beautiful sunlight, living by myself, so having that quietness and that, freedom to just roam naked or do whatever I please and not have anyone around. I thrive in that. And so it was just such a clear no-brainer for me, thinking of these new beginnings. Rentals, are so expensive at the moment, and I just knew I didn't want to share with strangers. I have shared homes since I moved out of my parents at 18 and have only lived alone for 3 months of that. And in a relationship, we only lived alone for like 4 months in total at the end of our relationship. So I crave that so badly. I am such a homebody and I just love my space to be my space. And so anyway, all of that to say, house sitting felt like, okay, I can have the company of animals. I love animals, and like I was saying, I miss my dog so much. I want to adopt a cat or 2 by the end of 2026. It was something I couldn't really do with my partner previously. He's allergic and just didn't like cats, and I always wanted a cat. I love cats and dogs, but it feels like now being single, a cat is way less work and way easier to pass over to someone if I'm traveling or a house sitter or whatever it is than a dog. And also I'm just grieving my dog still. I miss her so much, so I just feel like I can't replace her. And my lifestyle, as you can hear, is all over the shop to actually be a dog owner, as much as I would love that. So house sitting meets all those criteria. So I can live by myself, beautiful homes, explore different neighborhoods. I don't really know where I want to settle, and have the company of animals. So I'm landing Gold Coast. I've got a house sit until end of January. Then I've booked myself a cute little cottage in Mullumbimby where my dear friends Tammy and Tommy live, which I am so excited to spend time with them, but also to record a podcast with Tammy, who is a menstrual health coach. She is amazing. She is such an expander in my life. And so, Tammy, if you're listening to this, I'll be seeing you very soon. And yes, I've got a cabin for a few nights, and that's a bit of like a treat yourself. I know that I am going to be moving so frequently that having beautiful homes and, again, finding little things that expand me and bring me pure joy is something that I need to do. So there's that. And then I will be in Ballina, a bit south of Byron, for 2 weeks throughout my birthday. And then I've got another few house sits. Anyway, it all takes me until the 10th of April. I will be flying to Margaret River to reunite with my dearest friends, to see my dog, to just reconnect with all my community there, which I'm so excited. And I feel like, it's going to be so fun. There's 2 birthdays from 2 girlfriends, and it's a great time of the year to visit. And I genuinely do miss my life a lot. Like, as much as I decided to leave, I miss all of that. That was my everything for 6 years. So I think it will be quite healing to visit after, 8 months, 10 months since I left. So I think it's a good time for me to visit. So I will be house sitting and filling in the gaps in between house sits with some Airbnbs up until I come back from Margaret River on the 21st of April. So the plan is that'll give me enough time to save some money again, to explore different neighborhoods and see where I want to settle, and just have a bit of a community in the East Coast that I can kind of gravitate towards and find my roots, I guess. So this is, I guess, a very big random update of what life has looked like up until now and what's ahead. I think it was important to give this context because I actually don't think I'd fully spoken about this. And, I've been in such a cocoon of my own energy and my own space, as much as I have also shared that with friends and family, that I feel like I'm kind of ready for my wings to expand. I've been in that cocoon phase, and as I'm coming into the East Coast, I can feel that buzz internally happen. And I'm just genuinely curious to see what life is going to look like. Like up until this point, it was clear, or it was easier for me to think of this is what I would like this year to have, in terms of my relationship, the home that we're going to rent, and, life just was way more settled and secure. Whilst now there's this open canvas where I'm like, I'm working part-time for a Byron-based marketing agency, which has been great, super flexible and really remote, and loving that. But then I'm like, how am I going to fill up the rest of my time? And also, working 2 days a week and house sitting, my expenses won't be much, hopefully. So I'm just excited to have time in my hands, dedicate a lot more time to the podcast, be really mindful of my energy and the connections I make. I definitely feel like I know what it takes to build a strong community and a strong network of friends in your late 20s, coming into your 30s. And leaving that behind was so hard, as someone that, you create this life in a different country, so far away from home. And it takes so much effort, in your 30s now to connect with people and find people on the same page. But I, again, feel a sense of trust. I love to chat, as you can tell. So I'm pretty easygoing with that. And I do trust that I will find my groove pretty quickly. I will for sure be reporting on the ebbs and flows because, I'm like, am I ready to date? I still feel like it was yesterday that I was with my partner, my ex-partner. I'm like, who am I going to date? Like, what? Like, oh my gosh. Okay, so anyone who's in a relationship now, I don't know if you would have ever joked about this with your partner, but you hear all these like horror stories about dating apps and ghosting and gaslighting and all these things from people who are single and dating. And so often my ex and I would just turn to each other and be like, thank goodness we don't have to do this again. Okay, well, hello, here we are. I must say, at this point in time, I am refusing to go on a dating app. I am an organic, old school chickie, and I have been on dating apps before, like no judgment, I have. And, never say never. I really hope I don't go there. I am craving fun, lightness. I am craving genuine connection. Like, if someone is going to come into my life in whatever level of relationship, it needs to add no energy suckers, no Debbie Downers, like people that are going to expand my life in ways, and that I can add the same into theirs, like pure mutual, connection. And probably my standards are quite high, to be honest. Like, I do have quite high standards, and I just know what I want. I don't want anyone who is avoidant. I don't want anyone who doesn't have emotional awareness, and someone who is accountable for their own actions and who can let the ego sit aside and be like, hey, sorry, like not feeling this, or I said this, or whatever. That is my constant exercise for myself as a very imperfect human, but those are the kind of things that I work towards giving others, and the things that I hope I can receive back, So I feel like it's great that we're here in January. We've got 11 months ahead of us to see where 2026 takes us. This is me, single, about to turn 34, rent-free, kid-free, pet-free, everything free. Very open to see where this year takes me. So this is my Dirty 30 chat to kick off the year with. This is me today. I will be reporting back from Australian soil with, I'm sure, a lot more stories to come. But thank you so much from the heart for listening to this. Please comment, share, help me spread the word of this podcast, my little creative project that I'm actually so passionate about. And it's actually been so healing to just have girl chats weekly, you know, and like connect with people online. I am finding it so satisfying so far, and it is a pure, you know, honest hobby that I just want to hopefully help anyone that is going through the same shit as I have been to not feel alone. If anything, like, we are such a minuscule thing on this earth that there are so many people around us going through the same stuff. But the conversation needs to be open. It needs to remain vulnerable, and we need to just showcase that life can look different in our 30s to what the standard looks like. So I just hope you can find some comfort in that. Anyway, that's me. I am wrapping up for today. Sending lots of love. Bye.